Hello and welcome to, you get everything set up, our third video in the Google Sheets series. So if you watch the first two videos, we've talked about in the first one, how do you make a chart, how do you make a scatter plot of data, and then the second one we talked about all the different types of trend lines you can use. So that's the first two series. And the third one today we're going to be talking about how do you do something called linearization of data. So linearization is this really, really useful technique that we use in physics a lot to take this complex data set, say it's some funky, crazy relationship, and we alter our data set ever so slightly so that we can make it look like a straight line, so that we can tell things from the slope and the intercept of that line. So that's what we're going to do today. How do we take a more complex relationship between two variables and create new variables so that it's a straight line, and we linearize that data? Let's go ahead and jump in. I think it's easier to show sometimes than to explain with myself. Okay, there I am. Awesome. So last video we talked about this data set, and we looked at this. We found this quadratic relationship between these two that had an r squared of 1, which is amazing. And we talked about how it kind of came from this equation, this kinematic equation. So more specifically, I know that the initial velocity was actually 0 because we were dropping these balls from rest. So then I can alter that equation, and I can get this equation instead. So the distance is equal to 1/2 gravity times t squared. Okay? So now what we want to try to do is we want to try to fit this to a linear graph. So we're trying to make a line. And we know the equation of a line is this one down here. Y equals mx plus b. And this looks really, really similar, doesn't it? We can say that d equals y. And not do that cell because we can't see that. In this case, we know d equals y. We can say that 1/2 g equals m. T squared equals x, and 0 equals b. So you're just lining these two lines up, and you're saying, okay, the d and the y kind of match up. Since we have data on t, I'm going to say that the t squared is x, so that all this in the front must be the m. And then since there's nothing on the end, b must be 0. So let's try this and see if this works. And sometimes it doesn't always work, or it doesn't give you the result you want. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take, we're going to take this series, and we're going to copy, Command C or Control C, and paste it over here. And then we're going to take this one, and we're going to make a new series here. I'm going to get rid of this because this is kind of misleading. And we're going to do t squared in seconds squared. Okay? Here's going to be our x value. So here's what we're going to do. There are a bunch of ways you can do this. So you can type equals to form an equation. And then what you can do is you can click over here. And then just do a little caret 2. And it'll square that number for you. Okay? You can also do A4 times A4. Give you the exact same answer. I'll just do squared for now to be super clear. So now there are a bunch of ways that you can copy this throughout the rest of the data set. Depending on how big your data set is, dictates what method you're going to want to do. Okay? So option 1 is the hard way. You can type equals this squared, and you can just keep doing this for all of them. And just keep on keeping on. That's option 1. That's the slow option. Or if you have only a few data points, that works as well. Option 2 is you can click it, Control C or Command C, and paste. So you can copy it and paste it, and it'll work. And you can double check up here that it's doing the right thing every time. So you're on row 8, so it'll square this value. That is the second option. The third option is if you click on it, you'll notice that you get this little blue bar right here. This little blue bar is like a drag point. So you can actually just drag all the way down and it'll populate those values for you because it's just going to assume that you want the same pattern to happen every single time. So it just detects a pattern and it keeps applying that pattern over and over again. So here we have our squared data and our distance. So let's go ahead and make a new plot, a new chart about this. And let's see. So you have insert, chart, and this is just like we did in the first video. Boom. And let's give me some crazy thing for a title. Let me clean this up a little bit. Just so it's a little neater. Sometimes it does this. It's funky sometimes. So sometimes you gotta go through and clean this up. But now let's go ahead and put a trend line on this. So we go customize, series, come down here, trend line, and let's double check. Let's see the equation and let's check the r squared value. Boom, there you have it. R squared equals 1. So we actually just linearized this data. And there's one more way you can double check. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff happening. Let me get some of the stuff out of the way. So we said that the slope of this line, m, should be about half of gravity, right? 1/2 g. So that number is 9.8. So that's what gravity is, divided by 2. So we should get about a slope of 4.9-ish. And our y-intercept should be about 0. Okay, so let's see. Is our slope about 4.9? Our slope is 4.92. Awesome. Really good. That's really, really close. Is our y-intercept about 0? Yep, our y-intercept is about 0. So that means we've successfully linearized this data. And you can do it with any type of relationship you want. Any relationships in physics, this applies. You can do the same thing. So remember, we learned kind of how you can look at equations to figure out what should be what. We talked about what are all the different ways you can create this new data set. You can either individually type it, copy and paste it, or you can do the little drag thing. And we talked about how do you double check. So awesome. Thank you for stopping in. Right now, this is going to be the last video of the series, but I might add more if people are interested. So make sure you keep checking back and tune in later. Later, y'all.